Hello, everyone, and welcome to this end of financial year webinar for 2026 for the Australian Sybiz customers. And yeah, essentially what we're going to do this year is we're going to combine Vision and Visipay. If you do have any questions, just whack them in the Q&A and we'll do our best to get to those. As usual, we are software developers, not your accounting or legal or payroll advisors. So just make sure that the questions that you ask are directed to us when they apply to software, and perhaps refer to the ATO, etc. If they're more of a tax advice nature, that would be great. Thank you. And yeah, so it's just going to be a quick overview through the Sybiz Vision end of financial year information. So we won't take too long there, and just introduce a new end of financial year and reconciliation guide as well. And then we'll get into the VisiPay stuff. And if you're wanting a little bit more information about Payday Super, and I should just preface that this isn't an exhaustive deep dive into Payday Super, it's just a last minute sort of need to know bit of a refresher. If you haven't engaged with the content yet, we've got a heap of content that we've done previously. There was a specific webinar that went for about an hour and a quarter recently on Payday Super and Sybiz Visipay 2610. That's the webinar that you should be referring to if you are just realizing that Payday Super is a thing and haven't got out of the blocks yet. So for those customers that have been playing along and engaging with our Payday Super content to date, we won't be sort of wasting your time by going through everything blow by blow. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone, whether you're watching live or the recording. And yeah, as I said, just chuck your questions in the box, and we'll do our best to get the answers to you during this session. If you are watching the recording, use our website contact form, and we'll get back to you through that channel. But as I said, just horses for courses. Make sure that questions that are of the nature of the software do come to us, and if it is something more along the accounting, payroll, legal advice, go to your advisors or the ATO. Let's get into it then. So with Sybiz Vision, the current version is 26.10 at this point in time. So that's just a little bit of a guide there as to what we're up to. You may be on a slightly older version. But yeah, essentially, there's a lot of people that are new to Sybiz this year. So if you've come from other financial systems, I guess the pleasing thing from a Sybiz Vision perspective is that there's not a lot that really happens, other than sort of normal reconciliation that would be part and parcel of whatever other system you're used to. So the actual end of financial year process itself is fairly light on in terms of what actually happens behind the scenes in the software and the database. So yeah, so for those that are familiar with the process that we've outlined over the years, it has been a case of just reconciling as you go, so that you're not having to do a year of reconciliation at the end of the financial year when everything else is going on as well. So if you've been reconciling monthly, it's a pretty easy process. Complete any data entry, of course. We know the case that perhaps some supplier invoices won't arrive in your inbox until early July, so they'll need to be if they are transaction dated to the 30th of June, perhaps, then you will want to put those in that particular financial year. Use your report sets and the financial guide or the reconciliation and EOFY guide that I mentioned a moment ago. That talks a lot more about report sets and which reports to put in. Make any adjustments that you need as a result of reviewing those reports and doing your reconciliations. Rerun your reports, and because you're using report set, that's a pretty easy process. Back up your data and then create the new financial year. Not necessarily in that order. You could have already created your new financial year a couple of months ago. There's no real need to wait till the last minute to do that, but we'll talk about that a bit more in a moment as well. If you need assistance from your Sybiz business partner, tee that up. Hopefully you already have. Yeah, just the point to emphasize for those that are new to Sybiz is that there's no real formal rollover process. You just simply create a new financial year. There's a little bit of a YouTube clip that we have on our YouTube channel to take you through that process. So we do have this new guide for Sybiz Vision reconciliation and end of financial year. So it is mainly about the reconciling side of things because, as I said, the end of financial year process itself is very light on. So it talks about reconciling your different subsidiary ledgers to the general ledger control account, talks about the ledger reconciliation report quite extensively and how to use that, and just some general tidy up and maintenance tips that are also discussed there. Even though this is an Australian webinar today, if you do have subsidiaries in different countries, the guide has been written to the extent that it is internationally applicable. So if you have a subsidiary in New Zealand or the UK or wherever, then the guide is equally as applicable to those jurisdictions as well. So we'll include a link in the email that gets sent out after this webinar to that guide, and it's around about 45 pages long. As I said, it does talk about all the different ledgers within Sybiz Vision. Obviously, if you're not using something like the service ledger, you can just ignore that chapter, etc. So yeah, keep an eye out for that guide. So as I said, creating a new financial year is really the big thing that's required from a Sybiz Vision perspective, and all it really does is essentially just that. It creates a new financial year within the database. So it opens up that financial year or initiates that financial year so that you can open it up to users to process transactions when that comes around. Probably the only real trick here is that if you are creating the new financial year ahead of time, and then there's maybe a month that passes before you want to start transacting in that new financial year, you just need to keep front of mind that you do need to open up that financial year for the different roles within your organization to be able to process transactions. So that's probably the only real gotcha, where people will create the new financial year, then the 1st of July will roll around, they'll try and process a transaction, and they'll get a message saying that the transaction date is locked out for that user. And that just means that you haven't opened up the user rights. So this just gives you a little bit more information about the creation of the financial year. So yeah, essentially there are 5 active or up to 5 active financial years that can be a part of a Sybiz Vision database. Doesn't matter which country you're transacting in. And so you will get a little warning if you do still have user rights that are permitting people to process transactions in your oldest financial year. You'll get the warning when you go to create your new financial year, just to sort of say, hey, look, if you've been a bit behind in your getting the information from your auditors, you're a couple of years behind and still have some adjustments to do, you might just want to sort of make sure you get them in before you create the new financial year, before that oldest financial year is locked away. And there is also a confirmation box there as well. There have been a few trigger happy people in the past that have gone and created multiple financial years and then essentially locked themselves out of one that they still wanted to transact in. So just by having the confirmation box, it just helps reduce that autopilot of click, click, click next, and whoops, I've made a mistake. So just bear that in mind as well. And then on the right-hand side, you do have to convey rights to either everyone in the organization, depending on what your processes are, or individual roles to be able to process and transact within that the periods associated with that new financial year. So on one side of the spectrum, you might be an organization that once you create a new financial year, you open up all the periods to everyone, even though we're not there as far as the calendar is concerned. The other end of the spectrum is you might keep things pretty much locked down, so you don't allow anyone to process until the actual physical calendar kicks over into those months, and you might even mix it up for different roles being able to process in different periods. So typically what that'll mean is you might want your accounts payable people to continue during the month of July back posting into June, but other roles you may not want that. So yeah, as I said, just bear that in mind that you do need to open up the rights for transaction processing as well. So yeah, just from a Sybiz Vision perspective, there's really no other processes required other than obviously your normal sort of accounting processes that you will have. And yeah, that obviously varies quite significantly depending on the nature of the organization and the processes that you have in place. And yeah, so essentially, because Sybiz Vision is a real-time system, it does use the role-based security as well. So it just gives you that flexibility to control that access during that process. From a reconciliation point of view, and again, grab the guide that we've produced when you get the follow-up email. But yeah, essentially the ledger reconciliation report is the focus of the system in terms of your reporting. It is what I call the most important report within the system. It's not one of your, yeah, I guess your key financial reports like your trial balance, etc., but it is the heart of the system. So this ledger reconciliation report, it compares the subsidiary ledger balances to your general ledger balances, so the control accounts associated with those subsidiary ledgers. And it is very importantly for the life of the database. So you don't run it for a particular date range or as at a date. It is for the life of the database. And the main reason behind that is just performance reasons, because if you could run it for different date ranges or as at a particular date, it would probably take a month of Sundays to run for you. So if you do get imbalances in the ledger reconciliation report, it's a good idea to monitor the movement over time. If it's static, then that means that whatever's led to that imbalance is not ongoing. So that doesn't necessarily make it easier to track down, but it's good to know that the imbalance isn't getting worse. Just have a look at your control accounts to see if there's any history other than automatic postings. Compare your trial balance to the subsidiary summary reports at different points in time. So your trade debtors compared to your debtors age balance report. And then your business partner can assist with running queries on your database to try and track down what's gone wrong there. And then configure your general ledger accounts to permit automatic postings. So your control accounts that you use in, say, your product groups or debtor groups, make sure that they're flagged to include automatic postings only. So this is just a little snippet of the ledger reconciliation report. This is an old version of the report, so the new reports are a lot prettier, but it just sort of shows you the overview there where it can shows the various creditor ledger groups in this instance and compares it to the control account associated with those supplier groups. And it's all in balance, so that's what we want to see. So as I briefly mentioned as well, your control account options, you can set those general ledger accounts to allow automatic postings only. And if you find that you do need to make an adjustment, you can flick on allow journals temporarily, do your adjustment, and then turn that flag off. But by locking it down to allow automatic postings only, that just reduces the chance of something going out of whack. There's also the database health to regularly review your administration dashboard. So there's a database management dashboard that just lets you know if your database maintenance has been running, whether your backups have been occurring, etc., and various health checks. And then there's the performance and integrity dashboard that just outlines or summarizes your customizations, looks at the various areas where there may be some tuning required on your database. And then it also lists any records modified outside of the software. So yeah, I won't go into too much detail there other than yeah, just be aware that those things exist and it's a good idea. Even though it's non-financial information, it's a good idea for the overall health of your database to keep on top of those dashboards as well. So this is just a little example of some of the information that you can get from those admin dashboards. And yeah, so again, yeah, non-financial process, but a good thing to keep on top of as well. And there we do have a few tax tips as well. So I guess yeah, the main thing is that the tax periods and accounting periods are separate and distinct. So we do recommend that you have a tax code set up to exclude particular transactions from being reported from a tax purpose. So won't go into too much detail in this, but if you don't have a tax code that's set to non-reporting, or typically it'll be not on BAS, etc., then make sure you get one of those put into your database and mapped so that it doesn't actually do any tax reporting. So if you want some more information on that, you can just Google the ATO and you'll see the types of transactions that shouldn't be coded to something that reports in your BAS. So this is just one of those things that we see quite typically a lot of customers don't quite get right. So we just thought, well, we've got your attention, we'll just raise that. So as I said, tax years are independent, so it's another bit of a gotcha for those that are new to Sybiz Vision. The good thing about this, though, is if you forget to create your tax years and then you go to close your first tax period for the financial year, you'll get a message saying that the tax periods don't exist. You can just create them then and there, and everything will be fine from a reporting point of view, because nothing really happens at a database level from a tax reporting perspective until you close the tax period. So, yeah, and as I mentioned as well, we do have a few little controls in place to help you not get trigger happy, and so they exist in the tax period creation as well. Just one thing to mention, it is relatively recent. In version 24.10, we released the General Ledger Consolidated Reporting. There is a masterclass on that you can find from our website or our YouTube channel. Again, something that's not going to be relevant to everyone, but just a couple of pointers on this is that it doesn't matter if you have different base currencies in your different companies or different financial year ends, the GL consolidated reporting can still handle those combinations. So that's as far as we get with the Sybiz Vision content for this webinar. As I said, just a short and shiny overview there. The key takeaway there is that you do have the new reconciliation and end of financial year guide that you'll get the link to at the end of this webinar. So if you aren't interested in Sybiz Visipay, then feel free to tune out now. But for those of you that are continuing, we'll get straight into it. If you do have any questions on the accounting side of things before you go, whack them in the chat or hit us up through the website contact form. Okay, on to Visipay. The current version is 26.11 as at now, and I'll just talk a little bit about. It's a little bit confusing this year. So in terms of what version you should be on. So hopefully I haven't panicked anyone where they've gone, oh, I'm on 26.10 and that's what I was told I needed to be on, and for most people that will be the case. So we do recommend that you're on the latest version for end of financial year, but this year 26.10 and 26.11 are fine. 26.10 is the minimum version that's required for Payday Super. So if you're on an older version, even a recent version where the qualifying earnings flag was in place, the STP reporting is only available from 26.10. So that's very important to understand. The main reason for that is that the ATO were quite late in specifying what was required from an STP reporting point of view and putting the test cases together. So we've passed those test cases, of course, and 26.10 and 26.11 will have the support for STP reporting for Payday Super. And I should just really emphasize here that 2611 is only required if you're paying super to contractors under voluntary agreements or non-employees. Now, that's something that hasn't directly been supported previously in Sybiz Visipay, but seeing some of the questions that have been coming through as we've been running our Payday Super webinars, etc., it is clear that some employers were paying super to contractors using Sybiz Visipay. And even though there are other ways to report that information to the ATO with the advent of qualifying earnings, it's really a case now that, that does really need to be reported through the STP reporting rather than those other avenues. And so that's where 2611 has been extended to cater for those scenarios. So I guess, just to sort of really clarify that, if you don't have contractors that you're paying super for under voluntary agreements or non-employees, then 2610 is perfectly fine. So hopefully that's all pretty clear. Tax scale updates have been released, and so they are version independent. So whether you're on 2610 or 11, you will still get the tax scale updates, and you'll get a prompt to activate them when you roll into the new financial year or when you go to process pays for the first time in the new financial year. In terms of super, some of the changes that are in place, I guess, yeah, one of the important changes is that we're not changing the super rate this year, so it is remaining at 12%. So we did have that bit of a stop start along that journey as we went from 9% to 12% over a number of years, but it's remaining at 12% for 26, 27. One of the, I guess, really annoying things about Payday Super is that there's been various other changes that have come into play from a payroll perspective. So the actual Payday Super and the associated STP reporting side of things hasn't actually been that difficult. But then when these other things that have been brought in at the same time have been thrown into the mix, it has increased the complexity of what we as software developers and you as employers have had to face in this process. So the maximum contribution base is changing from quarterly to annual for the 26-27 financial year and beyond. We do have, you'll see the little screen capture here, the centralized area, centralized location for your ESG rate and your maximum contribution base. So that's just been added to the company information tax details down the bottom there. So that will automatically be set by the system. I should just point out that the ESG rate is just used to apportion the super between any additional super that you may be paying. So if in your staff types you are out of the goodness of your heart choosing to pay your employees 13% super instead of the statutory 12, then this variable here will be used to apportion the super between the additional super that you're paying out of the goodness of your heart and the the employer super guarantee. So these are generally set and forget. And then the maximum contribution base that will be set for you as well. But there may be occasions where we never know what's going to happen. Like last year, we had some changes to um, the tax rates around about October, I think it was, or the um, help SSVSS, STSL rates or the old hex rates. Yeah, so something sort of needed to be published in the interim. If they make a change to say the maximum contribution base partway through the year, this is where you come to update that. So it has been centrally located now. So it still needs as far as the maximum contribution base is concerned, its applicability must still be set and maintained at the staff type level. And just another thing as well is that we have now supported the super exemptions, the shortfall exemption certificate. So that's a very niche thing. So the maximum contribution base applies to people who are paid quite large amounts of money, and the super exemptions or the shortfall exemption certificates are in the case where people are getting large amounts of money from two jobs at the same time. And so the super exemptions are now supported with the hold super until date in employee records. So just like Sybiz Vision, the process overview is a lot easier if you keep on top of your reconciliation throughout the financial year. So if you have been reconciling monthly, then it's really only the month of June that you need to worry about if things don't quite look right, rather than having to drill back through all the previous months of the financial year. So yeah, stands to reason that you need to complete your data entry, run your reports. And again, report sets is something that we have in Sybiz Vision and Visipay, and you really should be using them. It just makes reporting a lot easier, especially if you do need to make an adjustment and then run your reports again. Having them set in a report set just makes that easier to rerun those reports. And yeah, obviously make sure you do your employee reporting. So as far as STP is concerned, there is the employment income statements to convey the final event notification to the ATO so that people can process their tax returns in following the path of least resistance there. If the records are finalised, it's much easier to get your tax returns done than unfinalized records, and then roll the year prior to the next pay run. So that's unlike Sybiz Vision. There's a lot more that happens underneath the radar as far as the Sybiz Visipay database is concerned. It's a lot more formal process, and mainly because yeah, the rules tend to change each financial year from a payroll perspective. If you need assistance from your Sybiz business partner, hopefully you've already organised that. As far as STP reconciliation is concerned, there is the STP2 reconciliation report, and the STP and STP2 for that matter, the data from an employee perspective has always been year to date. So, yeah, essentially you will see the year to date figures in the STP2 reconciliation report that you can refer to there as well. And yeah, so just another thing as well. It's probably not much of an issue, but in the any longer, but in the transition from pre-STP to STP days, there was, or there were quite a number of employers who thought that if 6 out of the 7 days in a pay period applied to the current financial year, but payday was actually on the first day of the next financial year, then that pay still belonged to the previous financial year because that's when most of the days were. That's not the case. The so if you do have a pay period that spans the end of financial year, that reporting belongs to the year in which that pay was paid, rather than yeah, which period the actual paydays, sorry, the pay periods span. So yeah, so just bear that in mind. Your final event indicators, we do have a specialized STP update event in Sybiz Visipay. So that's your event type down here, employment income statement. So this has, I guess, been streamlined over the years to become more of a path of least resistance. So it's essentially saying, okay, who have you paid during this financial year? Doesn't care whether you've terminated them or not, or whether they're continuing employees. It's just going to say, you've paid this person, so we're going to select them automatically to be included in the employment income statement. The flip side of that is that you'd have to do an update event and then select everyone that you want to do the finalization records for. Even if you have terminated someone during the financial year and you did already let the ATO know via the final event indicator that you'd finalize their record, you can let them know again. So you don't need to exclude them. And yeah, so it is just a fairly sort of easy process to just follow the bouncing ball and use the employment income statement for those final event indicators. So you don't have to wait until you roll the financial year. So if you're all done with your payroll processing for this financial year and you're happy with everything, you've done all your reconciliations, you can do your employment income statement now, and that will finalize the records from the ATO's perspective. Just a word of advice on that: if you do it prior to the 30th of June, those records for your employees may or may not show as tax ready, but yeah, certainly once the 30th of June kicks over, they will show as tax ready. So I believe the A2 advice is that they won't show as tax ready until the 30th of June, but anecdotally that's not the case, but that may change as we go. So if you finalize your records today, it is the 22nd of June. If you finalize them today, then they should show up as tax ready for your employees already. So you can also do the employment income statement after rolling, in which case you would do that as a prior year STP transfer. I should just point out as well that until the actual physical calendar hits the 1st of July, you won't be able to do a prior year submission, so that button will be grayed out. And in terms of when it must all be finalised by, that must be done by the 14th of July. So make sure you do that by that date so that your employees can get their tax refunds into their hot little hands. So from an employee experience point of view, they will see information on their MyGov with the summary of the information that's been transmitted through their single touch payroll for the year, and what they want to see is the tax ready flag all nice and green for them, and that will sort of uh, initiate the pre-fill process through to their tax returns, whether they do that themselves or through their accountants. The pre-fill will be initiated, so it'll take the information where relevant from STP and pre-populate their tax returns ready for their refunds. After you roll into 26, 27, as mentioned, the tax rates are changing. So I guess one of the changes that did occur last year when there were some updates to the STSL rates is that they became incorporated into the tax scales rather than being separate tax scales themselves. And yeah, so that just bear that in mind. So the new tax rates have already been published, so you may or may not have noticed, but your software would have grabbed them and they're just sitting in a little holding area within your database waiting for you to roll into the new financial year. And there are a few other changes this year as well. As I mentioned, the whole sort of Payday Super thing isn't overly complicated, but a number of the other changes, the things like the maximum contribution base becoming annual rather than quarterly, that's led to some requirements for changes in the UI. So we do have a new pay run tab because with Payday Super now, there's a number of things that you want to do within that pay process. So the pay run tab will appear for you as well when you update into 2610. And there is a new Sybiz Super transfer button. Um, so essentially for Payday Super, you have the Sybiz Super transfer, but the old Sybiz Super export remains under the utility tab if you still need to do your final contributions for the 25-26 financial year. So yeah, so that's just, I guess, might take a little bit of getting used to. It's just the nature of your Payday Super reporting is a little bit different, not just in terms of timing, but so that's why there's two separate processes there. And then once you've rolled the financial year, just go into that company tax details area and just check that the maximum contribution base and the super percentages are correct. And yeah, if you have come from a really old version of Sybiz Visipay prior to going on to 2610, it's going to be even more important just to check to make sure that some of those variables have updated correctly there. So yeah, just to summarize, unlike Vision, there are certain actions that you do need to perform in addition to rolling the year, and a lot more sort of changes in the database compared to Sybiz Vision. Your final event indicators must be reported by the 14th of July, so that's the employment income statement specialized update event that we've created for you. Review your staff types and pay rates accordingly. So things like the maximum contribution base, etc. You may want to just make sure that you've got that applicable to the staff types, and yeah, any pay rates that you need to adjust it in the financial year, do that as you would normally. And then, as mentioned, the tax scale update is automated. Okay, on to Payday Super. So if you are all over Payday Super, you're pretty confident that there's not much more you need to know, then yeah, you can tune out now. But this will just be a pretty quick overview. And as mentioned previously, if you have been sort of ignoring Payday Super up until now, this isn't the place to get the detailed information. Our previous webinars and other content will give you that information. So this is just a quick sort of overview of Payday Super in the context of Sybiz Visipay as we round the corner. So we did, after the webinar that I mentioned previously, the Sybiz Visipay 2610 and Payday Super webinar, we had a survey, and quite pleasingly, over 80% confidence was reported by people who responded to the survey that was part of that webinar. So that is much, much higher than the industry average. So I guess in some respects, without sounding too cocky, we're quite pleased that we've created the environment for much higher than industry average confidence within the base of Sybiz Visipay users. So So that's quite pleasing, but yeah, obviously, if you have been sort of hiding under a rock and have ignored Payday Super until now, that's not really going to help you. But yeah, certainly be reassured that the content and everything is there for people to be confident in Payday Super with Sybiz Visipay. So yeah, essentially at a very high level, to be ready for Payday Super, you would have wanted to have categorized your pay items as qualified earnings where relevant, upgraded to Sybiz VisiPay 2610 or 2611 if paying super for contractors, and then ensuring you have a clearinghouse solution. So, for example, Sybiz Super, which is powered by SuperChoice and has been our super reporting platform for over 10 years now. So, even predates the advent of super streams. So, it's yeah, industry leading service, and yeah, so we're very confident in that choice for the Payday Super as well. So, um, and yeah, just on that as well, the ATO's Small Business Superannuation Clearinghouse that will be no longer as of next week. So, if you have been using that, you should have received plenty of communication that that is being shut down. So, um, as I mentioned, we do have Sybiz Super as our clearinghouse. If you're going to use another clearinghouse, all the best to you. We don't make any recommendations. We have no knowledge of how other clearinghouses work, so you're essentially on your own if you choose to go down a different path. And yeah, so in terms of Payday Super, um, all of these steps need to be done at a very high level. So it's no good updating to 2610 and not having a clearinghouse and not flagging items as qualifying earnings. You do need to make sure that you do all three of those steps. And yeah, so just in terms of your overall payroll processes, you do need to make sure that you're ready to pay super at the same time as paying staff. And yeah, so that's going back to your payroll procedures and making sure that that's now part of the process. We do, as I said, we have the new pay run ribbon bar that guides you through that process as well. So it's going to be a little bit more front and center to guide you through that process. And yeah, the other thing that sort of keeps me up at night to a certain extent is just yeah, making sure you've got the ability to deal with any issues that pop up. So for a lot of people, and I should just contrast this, a lot of the content that comes out of the ATO, that's almost from their perspective where they're going, okay, we're this massive government department, we've got teams of heaps of people that are doing the payroll process, and so they almost think that that's the way the rest of the world works. But we know that for a lot of small to medium businesses, the person handling payroll is wearing one of many hats, and payroll is one of those. And so often is the case that they've done their payroll processes for the week, fortnight, month, whatever it happens to be, and then they set about doing the other things on their to-do list. With Payday Super, if you do get something like a rejection notice come through from a super fund to say that they haven't been able to match up the contribution that you sent them to the member that you told them, that's something you're going to need to be on your toes. You're going to need to keep an eye out for those messages coming back through the SuperStream reporting and dealing with those exceptions. So that's an important thing, just to make sure that you're not just taking your eye off the payroll ball once you've completed your payroll for that pay period. Your quality of superannuation data, this is something where I think it's going to cause some issues as we go. And again, this isn't really payroll related, sorry, payroll software related, I should say. This is more something that you should be aware of in terms of just making sure that your data within Sybiz Visipay when it comes to superannuation is as clean and up to date as possible. So the big point to make here is that your super funds have previously had, I think it's 21 or 28 days or something along those lines to reject a submission that they haven't been able to match. But during that time, obviously, a lot of these back-end superannuation systems have the ability to automatically match data that is as expected, but then they have manual processes. If something sort of almost matches but isn't perfect, they can still say, hey, look, yeah, we know we've got enough information to 99% be confident that this contribution for this person, even though their date of birth may be different on our records compared to what's been reported from the payroll system, we can see that the tax file number and address and name, etc., is all as it uh, is in our system as has been reported to us. So we're going to still accept that particular contribution and allocate it to that member's account. Under Payday Super, the super funds only have 3 days to do that matching process. So what I suspect will happen is contributions that they've manually matched previously based on imperfect data, they're going to stop doing that at some point in time, whether that's straight away or down the track, we don't know, but expect that to happen. And that's going to sort of kick into play a chain of events where you'll go back to your employee and say, hey, your super funds rejected the information because you haven't given us the right data, and the employee's going to turn around and say, hey, that's been the same as it has been, that nothing's changed for 5 years. Tell them they're dreaming. Um, but yeah, just make sure that your employees are ready to give you their proper super details if there is a rejection of the information coming through. So make sure that you do have the correct USIs, and in the case of SMSFs, the ABNs for the super funds in the number field of your superannuation records. If self-managed super funds are using an electronic service address, there have been a number of providers of electronic service addresses that have left the industry. So you will get rejections. Australia Post have exited the building, or will be as of the 30th of June. So again, this is an example of something where maybe nothing's changed for 5 years. So when you go back to your employee who has the self-managed super fund and say, hey, it's getting rejected, um, they may be blissfully unaware that Australia Post have left the building, and as such, yeah, just make sure that these things are you're on your toes and ready to respond to them. So even if someone turns around and says, "Hey, nothing's changed with my super fund or my self-managed super fund in 5 years," make sure you're in the position where you can press them and get them to confirm that, get them to check whether they're using an approved electronic service address provider. Just jump on the ATO website, and that'll give you the list and links. So if you just Google electronic service address ATO, and make sure you go to the official ATO link, that will give you that list of the 7 remaining electronic service address providers. I believe when SuperStream first came out, there were somewhere between 12 to 15 ESA providers, but yeah, there's only that handful remaining. And there are processes to go through to sign up to get the electronic service address. So it's not something that can just be done in 1 or 2 minutes. There is a formal process that needs to be gone through to get those electronic service addresses. So as I said, super funds may have tolerated imperfect data in the past. That I reckon will be changing. Because not only you as the employers that are going to be a lot busier with Payday Super, the super funds themselves are going to be a lot busier with Payday Super. And yeah, so it is quite possible that with the increased time pressure we're all under, that the super funds will start rejecting stuff that they've previously accepted. So yeah, get your employees ready to get their super information to you in case there are any issues. So for the Sybiz Super users, you can drill into your submissions to see what those errors and warnings are. So you may even it may even be worthwhile to go to some of your recent submissions, drill into them, even if everything's been paid and allocated, etc. You may still have some warnings in there where perhaps the super fund might say, "Hey, yep, we've let this one go through, but the date of birth you're reporting is different to what we have on our file." And yeah, then you can get your employee to update that with their super fund if indeed your records are correct. So a little bit of housekeeping required there as well. So as I mentioned, one of the key things is the qualifying earning flag, and Yeah, just make sure that that's all set now. You've been able to do that for a few versions now. Since 2510, we had it originally listed as OTE because that was what the reporting was going to be based on, and then qualifying earnings came into play from 26 as the legislation got passed. And yeah, so essentially we've automated this where if you already have pay items set to super does apply, then the qualifying earnings flag will be checked. There are some scenarios where you may choose to pay super, but it's not a qualifying earning. So that's for you to review those pay items. Hopefully you've done that because we have been talking about that for some time. Um, so I won't talk too much more about that during this webinar, but there's obviously a lot more detail in previous webinars. In terms of reporting super from Sybiz Visipay, the two options that we provided for you is Sybiz Super, and that uses the same Sybiz employer portal as STP, powered by SuperChoice. That's a relationship we've had in place for yeah, over a decade now. We very pleased with partnering with those with the people at SuperChoice, and yeah, provides a really good experience for our customer base. There's also the superannuation alternate file format export. That's a module that's also available that will essentially provide a standard file format that you can then export and upload to a clearinghouse of your choice. And yeah, that's just a standard file. Some clearinghouses might turn around and say, hey, we want to know what shoe size your employee is for our marketing purposes. They might want you to put that kind of information in the file. That's obviously an extreme example, but yeah, so just bear in mind that even though it's a approved file format, in order for that clearinghouse service to be provided, that they may have some demands of you to provide some more information that's not in the standard file. And yeah, as mentioned, the ATO Small Business Clearinghouse is no longer an option. And just a point on Sybiz Super as well, a few people have asked this, whether it is possible to post-date the Sybiz Super submissions. That is not currently possible. So the scenario is if you're processing pays and you're going to be away next week, you can, with your bank transfer file, you can sort of post-date that to be next Friday's date. So that you're not paying employees ahead of time and controlling cash flow. You can't do that with the Sybiz Super export. So once you go through the export process and you confirm and send your batch, that's going to get the payment process initiated as well. So hopefully there'll be some changes to that as we go. So you will have that luxury of being able to sort of pre-process stuff, but control your cash flow a little bit better there. Just a little bit on reporting super as well, in terms of obviously we're still in the 25-26 financial year and we're changing from the quarterly super regime to payday super. So the final quarter for 25-26, that's not due until toward the end of July. So it is possible that you could have 3 payday super weekly pay runs done before your final super for 25-26 is due. It is a little bit confusing, but essentially what the ATO does is that when you start sending super, so if you do start doing payday super prior to doing your final contribution for 25-26, the money that's coming through, your payday super is going to be allocated to the 25-26 bucket. So yeah, the ATO are advising if you are in a position to do so, then please do your final super contributions for 25-26 prior to the 30th of June. Obviously, not everyone's going to be in the position to do that, but it's just going to make everyone's life easier if you are able to do that. And yeah, there's more information on the ATO's website around that as well. Yeah, because a few people have been asking those questions. So some additional Payday Super resources, obviously sybiz.com. We've got plenty of information there. There is still quite a bit of information that's going through our final approval process, so we expect that to be updated by the end of this week, which will be Friday, the 26th of June. So by all means, have a look now, but there will be some changes to that information published on or before the 26th of June. And yeah, there may well be some changes to that that happen once Payday Super is underway as well. We'll be able to update our FAQs based on what we're being asked. So yeah, please, if you do have queries about Payday Super and Sybiz Visipay, go to our website first and foremost, because chances are if you ring us up and ask us a question, we're going to refer you to the website, just because we don't want the risk of giving verbal information and have that information be misinterpreted. So we want you to go to that single version of the truth, which will be our website in the case of how things or how Payday Super relates specifically to Sybiz Visipay. And obviously from a broader Payday Super perspective, the ATO is the central repository for that information. And as we mentioned quite often, we don't republish the ATO's information on our website. We instead provide links to that information. That's just what the ATO has asked us to do. They're constantly updating their information. I've even seen some web pages that have changed, and then the date down the bottom that says when it was last updated hasn't been updated. So it's pretty hard to keep on top of the information at the ATO website. So if we were to republish it, it would make it even harder. So we just provide links through to the ATO website. The superfundlookup.gov.au, that's an important resource as well. So sometimes this is, I guess, an example where a self-managed super fund will become non-compliant. So even though the self-managed super fund hasn't changed its details, you'll start getting rejections to say that the super's been rejected to the self-managed super fund. So you can jump on the super fund lookup, see if it's still a complying fund, and yeah, seek out information from the people that run that self-managed super fund accordingly. We've got the little flyer on the right-hand side of the screen there, so that's something you can download. And essentially what we're doing here is just giving you some information that you can give to your employees to let them know that Payday Super is coming, but also get them to help you out as well. So, and again, hopefully the key point, or one of the key points you've seen me emphasize quite a bit, is that even though people may not have changed their details, you may still start, you may start getting contributions rejected. So your employees aren't necessarily going to be that responsive when you say to them, hey, have you made any changes? They'll turn around and say, no, I haven't. But it could well be that they've just perhaps given you the wrong member number, but the super fund has tolerated it for the last 5 years because they've been able to have sufficient other information to match that to the employee, and they may stop doing that from the advent of Payday Super. So just bear that in mind as well. So it's important that your employees are on their toes to let you know when they change super funds. Sometimes a super fund will close or will merge with another fund. They need to let you know that as well. And self-managed super funds can change their nature as to whether they're compliant or not. So these kind of things we, I guess, had the quarter to play with before, but this is going to be every single payday. These kind of variables are going to come into play. So we really need the employees to be on their toes to help us out as the employers when it comes to their super details. Okay, so that's yeah, just a little bit of an overview there as well. And just importantly as well, because time is of the essence, sometimes there'll be a rejection message come through the SuperStream service and it'll say there's something wrong, contact the ATO, and then Sybiz will get a phone call and it'll say, oh, I've got this message that says I should contact the ATO. What should I do? Yeah. The obvious answer is the answer we will give them, which is to contact the ATO, because we have no idea why the ATO wants you to contact them. Similarly, if you get a rejection about a super fund rejecting the contribution, Sybiz has got nothing to do with that. So yeah, contact the super fund, contact the employee, depending on the nature of the message that you have come through that process. A couple other things that did come up quite a bit in the registration process. Again, thank you for asking those questions as we go through the registration process. We do use that to help shape and do some double checks, but there were quite a few people who asked about these nice little bits of jargon. So firstly, the member verification request is something that is part and parcel of Payday Super. It's all very well intentioned. What it is in place for is to say, hey, rather than wait to process the pays to find out that you've got information, say, about a new employee incorrect and you get a rejection come through from their super fund, the member verification request is something that you do ahead of time. It will become compulsory. So you can basically say, okay, once I've got the new employee that started, I'm going to do the member verification request to essentially say to the super fund, hey, we've had this new employee start. They've given us these details. If we send that through our super export file, will you accept it or reject it? And then you'll get a notification come back from the super funds. This is something that was fairly late in the piece introduced in the Payday Super mechanism. So not every super fund is available to respond to member verification requests at the moment. So it has been pushed back to March 2027. But one of our fears, because the ATO communication has been substandard in Payday Super compared to other changes that have occurred in recent years, it is possible that you might start getting things saying, oh, MVRs are compulsory from the 1st of July. Why aren't you doing them? If that happens, just yeah, have it handy that we will have that solution for you prior to March 2027. And another thing which is to do with STP, not Payday Super, but in their wisdom, the ATO wanted to make this occur on or before the 1st of July 26 as well. It's just another unnecessary moving part in the mix at that time. So we have with Super Choice, we've negotiated with the ATO to do a deferral for 12 months. So essentially, the SSID is just an identifier that you need to associate with your employer record at the ATO level through their relationship manager to say, hey, this is the software subscription identifier, so that it formalizes the relationship between your organization and SuperChoice as the sending service provider that we use for STP reporting. So again, nothing to do with Payday Super. It's just a STP requirement that we've had deferred just to get that moving part out of the way as we transition to Payday Super. Another thing that was asked as well by quite a few people was just the difference in treatment when it comes to salary sacrifice and qualifying earnings. So you do have that ability within the software itself to designate whether a pay item is part, or rather is a pay item that is being used for salary sacrifice purposes. So that's the way the software will differentiate, and yeah, whether that pay item that you're using for salary sacrifice is attracting qualifying earnings or not, that will go through to the qualifying earnings value in the STP reporting as well. So that's already part and parcel of the software. And yeah, so hopefully that's answered that for you. And with that, that's pretty much taken us through our hour of this webinar. So we had quite a bit to cover. And I guess, yeah, just with that, all the best for your 26-27 end of financial year, or rather the new financial year. I'm getting ahead of myself. And yeah, we'll see you in the next webinar. Thank you again. Bye.